Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
What we saying? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. My name is Santokie, one half of the podcast. Now, you don't need to rub your eyes in disbelief. This is a Santokie solo episode. I'm back. I spent the first half of my summer watching down bad West Indies across the country as we fell to a 3-0 loss to England. And then I've watched from afar as we lost to South Africa in the Test series, then picked up a T20 series victory. After that, I said, you know what? Let me enjoy the rest of my summer, get some fresh air, spend some quality time with family and friends, and I'll be back when summer ends. Now, for those of you living in England today, you would have felt the torrential rain, lightning, thunder. I took that as a sign that summer has ended. It's time for me to jump in the hot seat and take a look at Caribbean cricket. Now, for those of you who are following it, CPL has begun. And while me and Machel have both said, look, we're not going to follow CPL day to day. We're not following the franchises like we would normally do. We are going to keep an eye on it because at the end of the day, CPL has a massive bearing on the composition of the West Indies side. And even though we've come off a T20 World Cup, where usually there'd be breathing space to sort of rebuild, there is another T20 World Cup starting at the beginning of 2026 in India and Sri Lanka. So that gives us about, let's say, 15 months. So not really long. So if you're Darren Sammy, head coach of the West Indies T20 side, you're looking at the next few months as crucial. We got tours to Sri Lanka, and then we're playing Bangladesh and England in white ball games. So it's an important time to sort of build the structure of the West Indies side. And an important place to start, obviously, is the opening positions. Now, I think CPL as well also has the added dynamic of Darren Sammy also being a coach of a franchise, obviously at St. Lucia Kings. So that sort of unusual dynamic also must play a part in players' thinking because essentially, especially when they're playing St. Lucia Kings, but in any game in CPL, they know that the head coach of the West Indies side is going to be taking part watching. So it adds that impetus, if we can put together big performances, then you never know, we might get the call up for the West Indies side. So with that in mind, we're going to look at the opening position. Now, for context, Shai Hope came in at the end of the World Cup, played against USA and South Africa, hit 80 plus against the USA as opener, I should say, and then fell for a duck in the crucial game against South Africa. However, importantly, he was given the run as opener for the South Africa bilateral series, hit 134 runs, averaged over 40. And I think in one of the games, he hit 40 off 22 balls. So we've really seen the evolution of Shai Hope from someone at Headingley in 2017, classic test batter who looked like he'd be playing test cricket for the next 10 years, to one of the greats in ODI cricket, modern greats in ODI cricket, averages over 50, piles up runs against all nations, home and away. And now we've seen, if you look at Shai Hope, we've seen the evolution of him in T20 cricket. So got an IPL deal. I think last year was really the breakthrough. We've seen him play, especially in CPL. We've seen him have performances, but not been consistent. Last year was when he got that consistency, was rewarded with an IPL deal at Delhi. And then since then, he's gone on to do better things in T20 cricket. And I think we've seen, especially if you look at his stance, is very open. He comes off the front foot. He's completely changed his positioning as a batter to suit the shorter formats, which is why I know this is probably for another episode. I don't think we'll see him play Test cricket anytime soon, if ever again, because he's remodeled his stance and how he bats to kind of suit the T20 game. And fair play to him. He's secured the deal as a marquee signing in the Big Bash this year. So his stock has risen in T20 cricket. And at the same time, whilst we see some people call for him to play red ball cricket, nothing so far seems to suggest he wants to make an immediate return to that format. So Shai Hope averaged over 40 against South Africa. You would imagine he's essentially sealed, at least for the next few series or games, that opening spot. He was partnered with Alec Afanase. Now, Alec Afanase was obviously picked as like a backup, given a go as opener. Had an inconsistent tour. I mean, it's hard to base it on 3 games, but you'd imagine Alec Afanase at the moment, he isn't a front runner to be an opener permanently in the West Indies side. He may get given enough opportunity, but it's important to remember at Barbados Royals, he bats at number 4, lower down, 4-5. So it's going to be hard for him to make a claim as opener. So if we're looking at players who can open with Shai Hope, I know Shai Hope's a right-hand batter, so the logic would dictate that, he pairs himself up with a left-hand batter. However, Brandon King, Carl Mayers are both right-handers. If we look at the first left-hander, it's only right we start with Evan Lewis. Now, I talked about Darren Sammy watching CPL games. He definitely would have seen Evan Lewis hit a century, 154 balls, because it was against the St. Lucia Kings. Now, Evan Lewis is an enticing prospect in West Indies cricket because he's someone, we know his potential. We know what he can do, destructive at his best. However, his last 8 games, he hasn't played for West Indies since the World Cup in 2022, so 2 years now. And then before that, he hadn't played any bilaterals. So essentially, his last 8 games have only been at the 2021 and 2022 World Cup. Wasn't a great return for him at the 2022 World Cup. And you sort of got the sense from press conferences that Desmond Haynes, as lead selector, gave that he didn't have the best relationship with Evan Lewis. Now, obviously, Desmond Haynes is no longer selector. So is this the start of a new chapter for Evan Lewis, returning to the Maroon? I don't think we'll see him play 50 over cricket for a while. He hasn't played an ODI for 3 years. But in terms of T20 cricket, I think, Darren Sammy, we've seen him. He pulled Dre Ross back to the side. So is he going to reach out to Evan Lewis? I'd imagine Evan Lewis would probably be in Darren Sammy's plans. And it was just a case of waiting for him to get game time. Bear in mind, before the CPL, the last professional T20 game, I know Evan Lewis has played club cricket in Trinidad in that period, but the last professional game or series he played in was the Bangladesh Premier League in February. So he's gone about 6-7 months without playing T20 cricket. It would be hard for Sammy to sort of try and call him up, put him in the side without that game time. So that century by Evan Lewis, is that going to be the start of a new chapter? We off just 54 balls, so really, really strong innings. As I said, you have to add the St. Kitts premium to it. But I think Evan Lewis, especially bearing in mind he's a left-handed batter, Darren Sammy will be rubbing his hands. If we can get an informed Evan Lewis to bat with Shai Hope, who's on the rise, then that's going to be a formidable opening partnership. And then afterwards, you've obviously got Nicholas Pooran, a seemingly resurgent Shimron Hetmeyer, Shafane Rutherford, Jason Holder, Andre Russell, Romario Shepherd, Fabian Allen. So that middle order is stacked. If we can get the opening pair right, we're going to be a strong side, batting wise at least. So you've got Evan Lewis. However, as I said, it's early stages in the CPL. Only 7 games have been played, so we can't make a decision. And also, we don't know whether Evan Lewis wants to play for West Indies cricket at the moment. He hasn't said as such. You'd hope that he was available, but we don't know yet. So there's a lot there. So if we move on then to look at, alternatives, for me, I'd put Evan Lewis at the moment as front runner. If everyone was available, I'd go with Evan Lewis and Shai Hope to open in Sri Lanka, especially because the World Cup's going to be there. So what perfect conditions to try out an opening pair who you think can lead the line for West Indies at that World Cup. Now, it's interesting. If we just go through the rest of the openers, if we're looking at West Indian openers across the franchises at CPL, we've got Evan Lewis and Andre Fletcher at the Patriots. Now, we'll get onto Andre Fletcher. You've got Rakeem Cornwall at Barbados Royals. Obviously, MASH has done a lot of content around Rakeem Cornwall and sort of why we probably won't see him playing West Indies cricket, despite his, his adaptability in terms of the power play and being able to capitalize on the power play. Silnan Orion's been used as a pinch hitter for Trimbago, so we can rule him out. He's retired. And Johnson Charles at the St. Lucia King. Now, Johnson Charles obviously was picked for the South Africa tour recently, didn't play, played in the World Cup, soaked up a lot of runs, had a very inconsistent tournament. So Johnson Charles is also there. And 2 sort of strange decisions, from my opinion. Guyana, Amazon Warriors, have opened so far with both Kevin Sinclair in one match and Gudakesh Moti in the other. So haven't been following Guyana, Amazon Warriors that deeply so far. Obviously, the matches are on in the middle of the night in the UK. But can anyone in the comments let me know, what is the thinking? Was it explained on air or by the coaching staff? Was the way Moti was playing, was he coming out as a pinch hitter? And what is the logic there? And also, bearing in mind, Shai Hope, who's the incumbent West Indies opener, is in that Guyana Amazon Warriors side, and he comes in at number 3, which some would argue could be his stronger position. So it's strange for me that they've put, without, I know they've got Gurbaz as a settled opener, without another settled opener, why they haven't just tried Hope out. Or maybe that's something that they plan to do later in the tournament. But I'd be interested to get people's thoughts below. So Moti Sinclair we can rule out at the moment as opening candidates. Sunil Narayan's retired, we can rule him out. And so Cornwall as well, we've ruled out. So and Antigua Falcons haven't even got onto them. They've lost 4 of the 4 home games so far. So not a great start. Continuing that Jamaica Talawa's heritage. They've also gone unusually they've gone with Teddy Bishop, Kofi James, and Justin Greaves all opening alongside, I think it's Fakhar Zaman, the Pakistani opener. So they've gone as well with sort of outside picks as openers. I don't think any of those 3, whilst we know Bishop and, Kofi James are talented, I don't think any of those 3 and Justin Greaves can be considered genuine opening contenders. So Andre Fletcher at the Patriots is the next one we're getting onto. So I think he's about 35 years old, but same age pretty much as Johnson Charles. So we can't really use age as a factor. He at 83 of 83. Now, where do we stand on this? Because Spiceman, I mean, people rule him out and say, he's not at the level to perform at West Indies international level. But you do see him, not consistently, but once in a while will hit big scores and does seem to be a steady hand. So I personally don't think we'll see Spiceman. I just think that time's passed where he's an elite T20 opener. But do you think it's worth calling up Andre Fletcher to a squad? Is it past his time, or should we give him a go in the squad? Let's hear your thoughts below. What do you think on Spiceman? I would need to see more. Obviously, he hit 83 of 33 in one of the matches for the Patriots. Seems to work well with Evan Lewis at the top of the order. So is he worth a shot? Is it worth going with the Patriots combo, Fletcher and Lewis as opening pair? Let me know below. I don't think so, but let's see, people. We're here to, this is our fan channel. We're here to agree, disagree, but let's have that debate. Now, the other interesting factor is, obviously, I've mentioned openers. Carl Mayers, who has been dropped recently not dropped this year from the West Indies side, he plays at 3 for the Patriots. So the Patriots have got a stacked top order, and Carl Mayers hit 92 of 62 in the, I think 3-4 days ago. So Carl Mayers almost scored a century. He almost took the headlines. And he took 2 wickets in that game. Now, Carl Mayers is handy because he can also bowl as well, that medium pace. So in T20 cricket, he's got that added dimension. He'll be a good fielder. He can bowl, pick up wickets, golden arms, as we know him in the region. And then also hit with the bat. Does Carl Mayers, does he need to do more? Do you want to see more big scores on Carl Mayers? I like Carl Mayers. I've always been a big fan of him. I think he just needs some more consistency, and we probably will see him again. It wouldn't surprise me by the end of the year if we see Carl Mayers in the squad, just because, like I said, he's got that compelling nature of being able to take wickets as well. If you've got a top order player who can come in and strike big, as he did in that match for St. Kitts, and take wickets, is priceless in T20 cricket. It's what we see in IPL franchises. They're always going for multi-dimensional players. So Carl Mayers is one to look out for. I think we could see him called up for a squad if he puts in consistent performances. I think the only issue with Carl Mayers is he's not batting, he's not opening in the CPL. So do they bring him in based on his performances at 3 and try him in the middle order, or do they still sort of just bring him into the squad and say, look, you played as an opener, we'll use you as an opener at some point? So again, Carl Mayers is one. And it's also important to note Brandon King's currently injured. So Brandon King was injured in the World Cup, picked up a side strain, hasn't been seen since. Hoping he will come back later on in the CPL. They haven't ruled him out of the tournament yet. Brandon King, obviously, you'd imagine he should be the incumbent with Shai Hope, because Shai Hope, I should say. I know a lot of Bajans get onto me for saying Shai Hope. So Shai Hope, I think Brandon King should, in theory, be the incumbent. But we've seen with cricket, time doesn't wait for any man. If he's out of mind, out of sight, we could see him, especially if he doesn't play much games in the CPL, we could see him miss out on the squad or make the squad and not be selected in Sri Lanka in the 11 based on the form of other players, especially in T20 cricket. You tend to go with more recency bias. So players in form, for players coming off CPL knockout stages final in hot form, you'd imagine they would sort of make that 11 for the next West Indies. Like, let's say it was Evan Lewis, just because they're in form, and that's crucial in T20 cricket. So Brandon King, it's an unlucky period for him to be injured, but we still got to have him for consideration. I feel, he's a good quality opening batter. I think he works well with, he will work well with Shai Hope. They're players who can rotate strike very well, especially with Shai Hope being able to accelerate more now as well. We haven't seen them as an opening partnership, so that is something that could be an enticing prospect for West Indies. So at the moment, we've got Evan Lewis hitting that century. We've got Brandon King, the incumbent. we've got what I would say the outsider picks, Carl Mayers and Andre Fletcher, sort of around as well. Now, some people may say in the comments, Rakeem Cornwall, whilst I agree with what Michelle says, I think the issues around his weight and sort of his inability to sort of make singles quickly has probably hindered and stopped his chances of getting a call up, even though he plays the power play well. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Now, I'm trying to think what other openers is there. So Alec Afanase, just to go back to him, whilst he did open, I think the fact that, especially with Quinton de Kock and Rakeem Cornwall as an opening pair, I can't see that getting broken up for the CPL tournament. So you'd imagine Afanase will have to take his chances in the middle order. So I'd imagine he would make the squad for the Sri Lanka series, definitely, but I don't know whether we'll see him open in the 11. Now, the only thing you can say in regards to his opening position is the names we've given, the names that are standing out so far in CPL, Evan Lewis, Andre Fletcher, Carl Mayers, they've all been given their run. They've all had a run in the West Indies side. 2022, we saw in the World Cup when we failed abysmally, Evan Lewis and Carl Mayers got their shot in the top three, and then also Johnson Charles as well. So you can say we're going through the tried and tested. Where are the new openers? And if you look at that list, I know we got Kofi James, Teddy Bishop. They're so inexperienced. Surely they can't be considered anywhere near the West Indies side at the moment. And with the World Cup so close in terms of just over a year, they'd have to have a remarkable run of form to get picked. And obviously with Guyana Amazon Warriors picking Moti and Sinclair, they're not realistic openers. Sinan Orion as the pinch hitter. So I guess you could say, whilst there are options, most of these options, the players are in their mid-30s or coming up to their mid-30s. So where are the younger options? What names can you think of? Can you give me who you think might not necessarily be a player that's opening at the moment for their franchise or even in the CPL, but you think has the talent to play the new ball and work well in the power players opener? I'd love to hear, any players under 30 who you think could be given a shot as opener, even 25. And let's see what you say. Obviously, we've got talks about Joel Andrew. He's a middle order batter. Casey Carty's done well so far. Mikhail Louis done a good innings. They're all middle order batters. And I'm sure me and Michelle will come with an episode looking at that. But for now, I thought, let's start with the openers. Who do you think is going to open? I'm going to put this question to you. In Sri Lanka, assuming everyone's fit and available, so Brandon King's fit and available as well, who do you see opening? I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say, if Evan Lewis is available, Evan Lewis will open with hope in Sri Lanka. So that's my take. Obviously, some may disagree. I'd imagine some of you will say King and Hope still need to take that on. Some may say, you know what, we won 3-0 against South Africa. Why try and fix something that's not broken? Let's go with Afanase and Hope. Or some may say, listen, Hope ain't the answer. Hope shouldn't open. So I'd love to see what combinations people have and sort of what you say. So we're going to keep, as we said, we're not going to be following in and out CPL game by game because it's the middle of the night in England. We have day jobs and stuff. But we will obviously be watching highlights, any important special knocks and sort of what it means for West Indies cricket. So I hope you've enjoyed, this quick Santokie special. I'm sure the next episode will be myself and Michelle returning again. Like, comment, follow, subscribe, share the Movement Caribbean Cricket Podcast. There's only the other day I was traveling on the tube in London. Someone stopped me and was like, oh, yo, are you Santokie, bro, from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast? I listened to you. So the movement's getting out there. We're out here global. So thank you for all the support. And as always, if you would like to support us financially, you can follow us at Patreon, Carib Cricket. Any donations welcome. All money. We don't keep any money from our Patreon. And literally everything goes into production and improving the quality of content we can give you. So Ajmas said, there's a lot of imitators out there. Nobody can do it like Caribbean Cricket Podcast. The originals out here. I'm sure never a dull day in West Indies cricket. Who knows what the next episode will be about. We still got to look into the West Indies women's side that was announced for the World Cup. Obviously, the boss, Deandra Dottin, makes a return to West Indies colours. So me and Mash will be back analysing that. And we'll be back, whatever content comes up, whatever happens in the region, rest assured we'll be out, that consistent content. So thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. Hope you've enjoyed this quick episode, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care, and goodbye.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.